A huge moo to the herd, and welcome to episode 8 of our Gregicality Skyblock playthrough. So, fair amount of work done between episodes in just getting materials and such like ready for hopefully some more machines today. Where we left the previous episode, we were going to try and make the centrifuge and the chemical reactor. Following on from that, I also want to make a fluid solidifier, because if we look at the recipe for the conveyor, which is required for our robot arms, we're going to need rubber sheets, and rubber sheets are made either by making double rubber ingots or curved rubber flat, etc., or we can use a fluid solidifier with the liquid rubber to make plates, which is something we're going to want to do. Hence the reason we've got the fluid solidifier recipes queued up. So the first thing I want to make is our centrifuge, and I've made up the necessary components, etc. prior to this. So I'm going to clear out 3 blocks here, and I'm just going to pop down some cable. Hopefully I've got enough. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to pop our basic centrifuge down, and that will charge up quite nice and slowly. So what do we want to use the centrifuge for? Well, if I go for sticky resin, if we put that in a centrifuge, if I just use for that, pop that in a centrifuge, we can get raw rubber pulp, plant balls and glue. Now the raw rubber pulp is what we're going to need to make rubber. So I have some sticky resin. Let's just take half a stack, and we'll just stick that in our centrifuge, and let's see how we get on. I'm disabling overclocking because we just don't have the power to sustain it. And if I click on this and put that in centrifuge, yeah, so that would be running at LV, which would be quicker, but it would also drain more power. And as I said, we're just barely able to scrape by on this. And as you can see, we're getting some nice raw rubber pulp. And if I go into the fluids view, we're getting some glue. Now the glue, does it have a use? Let's find out. Glue. Uses for glue are making phenolic circuit boards. That's going to be useful. Making a small pile of graphene. Ooh, basic circuit boards. I can use some copper foil, wood planks and glue to make those, rather than having to make up all the different cables and everything else. That could be quite a bit easier. Glue for our resistors, that's going to be very useful. So all going good so far. Yep, so definitely we want to get down to that route of making the assembler, because all of these lovely resistors, it's going to make things a lot cheaper for me. Right, so whilst that's running away, next thing we want is the chemical reactor. Now I'm going to need to make some glass up, and I thought I'd made everything up prior to this, but clearly not. I'm going to need 2 glass for that, and 3. And we're going to need some cobble for sand. Let's go down to our forge hammer down here. I notice every mod pack I play, for some reason, there's an excessive amount of rain. I'm going to start to take it personally soon. Hopefully there's something in this pack to get rid of the rain. Otherwise I'm going to have to build a nice little covered base, which I'll probably do anyway. Now, because we've been having a few issues with steam, our little coal boilers haven't been able to keep up with running these and these. I've made up a soft hammer because I lost the previous one, and I've just been disabling machines. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to empty out this. I've been just making up some cassiterite because we were getting low on tin, and we'll pop our sand in the macerator. Yeah, just clear that out. And that will then turn that into sand dust. Is it sand dust? Yeah, sand dust. And we'll also do the same with flint. Meanwhile, yeah, we're getting a lot of raw rubber pulp. Now, for the chemical reactor, it's 9 raw rubber pulp to 1 sulfur, which means we've got, what, 3 there? Let's see that again. Yeah, so it's just going to give us just over 3 buckets of rubber, which should be enough, I hope. Right, so let's take that out, put that in. And take that out. Make up our glass dust. Just going to switch you off for now, because we don't want that on. Drop my glass dust in here, and meanwhile I will grab the faucet from here. I really do want to make up another drain and clock so that I can just have them separate rather than, you know, switching things over. We'll let that glass do its thing, and what we can do is we can just switch that on so that once that's finished, it will just put it into the chest and that'll be us done. Alright, so what else are we going to need to do? Hopefully this is all finished. So we've got 36 raw rubber pulp. We've got a few plant balls. So plant balls are good for anything. Fuel, brew machine to make biomass, pyrolyze oven to make more plant balls. Oh, 10% chance. And fermented biomass or a chemical plant with honey to make fermentation base. Fermentation. It's not even a word. Right, so we've got our raw rubber pulp. That's all good. Pop that away for the time being. What we do need is some sulfur. There's some sulfur ore chunks there, and we could just smelt that straight off, or pulverize it into crushed sulfur ore, impure, and then we'd have to centrifuge it into sulfur dust. Is it worth it, or do we just heat it for now? I think just initially we'll heat it. So I'm going to take the impure part of cassiterite out, get you running again, and that will give us our sulfur ready for making up rubber in the chemical reactor once the glass is done. And thankfully we can say that the take that out. Rain has stopped, so no more really annoying background noise. And one more, 2 more actually. Let's see if my glass is done, because I want to put that through the furnace. I have to say, not a big fan of the way that the glass is made in this pack. This feels a little bit unnecessary, but it is what it is. I'm sure the mod pack creator had reasons for it, so I'm still enjoying playing it, so it's not really the end of the world. So that's 2, and the other one will start pouring in a second. Do love the automation on this. I think one of the things I would like to get into at some point, if I can figure it out, is bees. I've always loved bees in mod packs. I don't know why, but for me they're just something quite creative, especially if you've got the ability to do genetic manipulation on them, etc. I find them much more interesting in terms of resource generation than, you know, the likes of just sieving stuff and so forth, especially if you've got to work on breeding them. So I think at some point in the future we'll see if we can figure out how to get bees operational, if we can even do it in Skyblock. I know they're all in JAI, but a lot of stuff that's available isn't necessarily available in the pack. So right, have glass, we have sulfur. That's one for our periodic table. So basic chemical reactor, done. Okay, so we can pop that down, pop you here, get some juice, and now in theory, that should to be able to take, what did I put that way? That I did. Raw rubber pulp. Drop that in there, and we can drop that in there. And that should slowly but surely, I'm going to take overclocking off again, just in case. And what's the recipe speed on this? LV, so overclocking didn't really matter. It's going to be taking 16 EU per tick anyway, so. And slowly but surely we should start to get some rubber. That leaves our last machine, which is our fluid solidifier. And I need more chips. Did I not make chips? Oh. Alright, well, in which case I'm going to go and pause here, make up some more chips, and then we'll make our fluid solidifier. So we'll be right back. Okay, so I'm just making up the raw time needed for our last circuits. The reason I'm walking all the way down here rather than using the one up there is that one's currently disabled. Still load of stuff in there, and I don't really want to mess around with trying to figure out where stuff should go. So if we take this up here and make sure our bending machine's on 0, it is, so that can make the plates up. We got just over 5 buckets of rubber, which is brilliant. So hopefully we'll be able to make up a load of plates in our fluid solidifier. That needs to go in here. Integrated circuits. I want 2 of these. Perfect. And now we should be able to make our fluid solidifier a second. Put a chest in my inventory. Done. So we have our fluid solidifier. I can go in there. One thing I did make was the mold for plates. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take buckets. So I've got 4 buckets. And I'm going to start adding this in. See how many plates we get from our 4 buckets. Ooh. Yep, switch the overclocking off, because that just drained the power like nobody's business. So 4 buckets of rubber gave me, well, it's going to give me a fair amount of rubber sheets, which is brilliant. Because I'm going to need to go, I think I need some more netherrack to sift to get sulfur. Let me just check, see what we get from sulfur chunk. Sulfur ore chunk. One of these must exist. Yes, it does. Crushed netherrack with tin alloy mesh, and that gives me a 16% chance of getting sulfur. So yeah, I'm going to have to make up some more netherrack. And netherrack is relatively simple. It is lava with redstone, and that gives me netherrack, and then just crush it, usual stuff. May as well just use the last bucket in here, because we're not gonna well, we are going to use up all these rubber plates. Not going to use up all these rubber plates. That didn't make any sense. Right, so I've got 34 rubber plates from, or rubber sheets I should say, from our 5 buckets of rubber, which is not bad at all. And what quests have we got done? Let's have a look. We've done the chemical reactor. The following quest is, this is your first complex ore processing process. Start with gold dust in JI, chemical reactor, and then go down the line until you're at precious ore. Excuse me. So let's have a quick look at that. So if I do gold dust, and go to chemical reactor, right, so to get gold dust and sulfur dioxide and hydrochloric acid, we need potassium metabisulfate dust and water and chloroauric acid. This stuff is from something. Tiny piles of potassium. No, it's not that one. I thought it'd be like a chemical reactor. I'll mix a recipe, that'd be more like it. Potassium dust and sulfur dust with some oxygen. Okay, that gives me the potassium metabisulfite. And the other ones we need are chloroauric acid, which is gold leach dust with sulfuric acid and aqua regia. Oh yeah, this is very complicated. This is something we probably want to tackle, but not right now, because I'm going to need to sit down and figure out if there's a handy flowchart on what machines we need for that. So what we were going to do is go back to our quest book. We've also done our basic centrifuge, so that's even more coins. Now, what we'd like is the robot arm to make a basic assembly machine. And a robot arm, add that into our list, requires a couple of motors and a piston. So that's 3 motors to make the piston. Some steel rods are easy to make. Some tin cables, relatively easy to make. And we'll probably need 2 of those. Do we need 2 of those? We probably do, yes. And the next one is the basic assembly machine, and this is what we needed the rubber for the conveyor modules. So we need 2 of those. We need 2 conveyor modules, so that's another 4. That's 6, 10 motors we need to make. Rubber sheets, we've got plenty of those for the time being. Some more circuits, LV machine holes, some tin cables. Yeah. So let me get all these components together. The other problem we've got is I'm running out of space. I mean, I couldn't just drop another machine in there. That's not too much of a problem. We are really stretching this though. So yeah, this would be like the last machine I would add in here. What I probably will do, because of the cable loss per block, I might actually start making towers going up the way rather than flat long lines. So if I did like a block of 4 cables going up, and then you could surround the machines by, you could have 4 on each side, which means that if you get 16x cables, you'd have the ampage to run those constantly as long as you had all the power. So we'll probably do that. So yeah, as I said, let me get all the components together to make up our machines, so we can aim at getting the assembly machine done before the end of this episode. Yeah, so we'll be right back. Okay, so a lot of time spent gathering the necessary components. Hopefully we have enough to do everything. Let's see if we can get it done. So first thing first, we're going to need the robot arms, and I'm going to need 2 of these. And that's the quest complete for robot arms. So let's just collect our reward. And then the basic assembly machine. So the basic assembly machine, we're going to need conveyor modules. We're going to need 2 of these. So 1, 2. But that's them done. And that's conveyor modules quest also done. Where's that one? Ah, here. So we can open up the basic electric sieve, which is pretty good. So the assembly machine, that's the whole reason we were doing this. We have all the components apparently, and we have our first basic assembly machine. Yay! We are going to need some more tin cable because I forgot to make some up. Always something, isn't there? Right, so we'll just pop that in here. I've got some enough duct tape. I have to say the most frustrating thing is actually making up all the duct tape to turn these into cables. It's just, you've got to make up the wood pulp, turn the wood pulp into paper, get the necessary sticky resin, blah blah blah. But it's a significant improvement on making carpet, etc. So I'm not going to complain too much. Right, so switch overclocking off on that. So we now, in theory, have the assembler done, which means that in theory, let's try something. Okay, so resistors. In here, we need some glue. I have glue. We need some coal dust, charcoal, etc., copper wire, and fine copper wire. So, do you have any copper? Right, so let's do 2, 3, 4. And what we'll do, pop that back. is I want, this should give me, I'm going to make these equal, so that's 4. One of these would equal, let's do 2 of these actually, get the fine stuff. I think that should balance out. So at the moment, when I make a resistor up, it's 2 sticky resin, 2 fine copper wire, 2 copper wire, and 1 coal, charcoal, whatever dust to give me 1 of these. Okay. Right. So I could do with 1 more piece of copper. I've got equal amounts. If I do the resistors in the assembler, I need 4 and 4 to get 8. So that's 2 pieces of charcoal through our macerator. Do we need anything else? Just some glue, and that's 200 millibuckets of glue. That's not the end of the world. Hope. Let's have a look in here. I have enough. There we go, a bucket of glue. Pop that in here. Now we pop that, that, and that. And slowly but surely, that's 8, so that's 16 resistors made in significantly less time, using significantly less resources. Yeah, this is what I absolutely love about these packs. I said it in the previous episode, I'm going to reiterate it in this one. It's that frustration at the start where you're having to handcraft everything and do everything manually and you're running backwards and forwards, etc. And then you start getting your first machines and things work so much better. So I mean, assembler, so 4 copper foils. I'm going to need to make a cluster mill. I think that's the next thing we'll make in the next episode, is a cluster mill. The reason being is 1 copper plate equals 4 copper foils in a cluster mill, or 1 copper plate equals 2. So, excuse me, that cluster mill makes life so much easier. But yeah, with an assembler, some glue, 4 copper files, wood plank, we get our basic circuit boards, again, significantly easier. What else can we do in the assembler? 2 bits of paper, 2 bits of copper wire, and a glass tube. Is that an improvement? Actually, I'd probably be using fine wire anyway. What is it at the moment? I don't know why I did that one, I just clicked over. 2 bits of paper. Yeah, so we're saving a piece of wire, is what we're basically saving. So it's not the greatest saving all, but again, it's all things that add up over time. Ideally, we'd want to get rid of these entirely, but 1 step at a time. The other thing I can do, instead of using duct tape, is I can now use rubber foils to make to coat all my wires. And rubber foils are in the cluster mill. Again, 1 rubber sheet, 4 pieces of rubber. So that's going to make life significantly easier. So yes, definitely, I think the next thing that will be made in the next episode is our cluster mill. That'll be the first thing we'll make, because let's just unlock that. And the blast furnace, yeah, we're going to make up a blast furnace, because the other thing I want to do is get to tier 4 sifting, because I want some diamonds and I need aluminium meshes for that. But yeah, next episode we'll make our cluster mill up. We'll look at then using more rubber, etc. So I'll have to make up some sticky resin and run that through the centrifuge to get more glue, which we'll need for our components. And then we'll look at, well, there's a couple of things I want to look at. I want the blast furnace, because I want to get aluminium and do tier 4 sifting. But I also am very conscious of the fact that our power is on a knife edge at the moment. We've got a couple of these coal boilers into a single steam turbine, which is allowing me to run one machine at a time, which isn't the end of the world, but as we're starting to do more stuff, we're going to need to have more machines running at the same time. So we'll probably want more turbines. We're going to need to think about our fuel source, because our little coke oven isn't producing charcoal at a massive rate of knots. So, do we need to go alternatives? So we've got some things to work on for the next episode. Now, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, feel free to give it a like. If you'd like to see more episodes, then please feel free to subscribe. Until then, I wish you a very pleasant day. Goodbye.